Have you ever found yourself in a position where you did something, but you know that you would never do that if you were in your normal mind? But you only did it because somebody has sweet talked you into it, or somebody has made you think that that is something which you have to do in order for them to accept you. If this sounds familiar, then you might be guilt tripped, or someone might be using guilt to make you do things which you do not want to do. And guilt tripping is a tactic used from a long time. Even our parents, our spouse, or our friends, our siblings, or anyone who knows our mind or our mentality uses this guilt to make us do things which we wouldn't normally do. And this guilt tripping is okay to some extent because this is how we make kids do something which they are supposed to do. But if it becomes excessive, like if it's not something you actually want to do and people are making you do things, then you might be a victim of guilt tripping. And no one can use guilt against you if you don't feel guilty in the first place. And there are a lot of reasons why we feel guilty in the first place. It might be a mistake we have done, or it might be that we don't feel worthy of ourselves, or we don't feel that we are capable of making our own decisions, or we don't trust ourselves enough with our own decisions. And that is why people use guilt to manipulate you into doing things which you normally wouldn't. And guilt is something which we are trained to accept as normal from our childhoods, because that is what our parents has been using on us as well, to make us do things which we're supposed to do. Our teachers, they use it on us to make us do things which we are supposed to do. So when we come across guilt as in the society where someone else other than our parents or teachers are using it as a tool to make us do things, we do not consider it as a threat. We consider it as a normal thing because that is what we have been used to. But at a point, you will recognize that I wouldn't have done that if that person didn't make me do it, or I wouldn't have done that if someone hasn't motivated me to do that. So, if you find yourself in situations like this, guilt might be the reason why you're doing things you do not want to do, or you which you wouldn't have done otherwise. So there are things which you can do if you want to be free from guilt and to live the life that you actually want to live, instead of trying to please others or trying to um, be the person who others want you to be. So, how can you do this? How can you be free from guilt and live the life that you actually deserve? First of all, stop all kinds of destructive criticism. Whether it's from you or from others, you have to stop criticizing yourself in a negative way. Constructive criticism is something which will build you up, but destructive criticism will set you up for failure. And you do not know that you're doing it, or you may not even realize that you're doing this. But every day we keep feeding our mind with negative thoughts about ourselves. When you're not doing something perfect, or when you're not up to the mark in some job, you will tell yourself that you're not worth it, or you're not up to the mark, or you're not um, you're not efficient enough to do that job. But when you feed your mind with such negative thoughts without any resistance, then your mind starts believing, your subconscious mind starts believing that that is true, and it will accept it as the reality, even though that's not the case. So stop saying anything about yourself that you do not desire to be true. And also, if someone else is criticizing you in a destructive way and they're not giving you a positive feedback, stop them right then and there and tell them that you're not okay with people talking to you like that. And then you'll be able to cancel out all these negative thoughts, and you'll stop feeding your subconscious mind with negative thoughts about yourself. And this is one way of getting away from guilt. And secondly, accept complete responsibility for your life. Or we tend to blame others for whatever is happening in our life instead of saying that I am also responsible for what is going on with me in my life, or I am also involved in the decisions. We keep blaming the other person completely, or we keep blaming the circumstances. And when we stop doing this, when we stop blaming others and take complete responsibility for everything that is happening in our life, it is like we are gaining control back on our life. Usually people think about their situation in two ways, that they do not have control about anything in their life. So our um, that is when we think that there is an external locus of control which is controlling all the events or situations in our life. But when we think that we are responsible for anything or everything that is happening in our life, we are gaining back control over our life. And the point of control is internal. So we have an internal locus of control. And when we change this internal world, everything around us seems to be changing too. So stop blaming others for anything that is happening in your life right now and take responsibility for whatever is happening. Sometimes some situations are completely out of your hand. That kind of situations, leave it for another day. Think about them another day. Because you'll get to a point where you will find that something is inside you which is stopping you from getting there, or which is preventing you from getting the outcome you have desired. So always stop blaming others for your insecurities, blaming others for your failures. Instead, take responsibility, take control back over your life, and you will feel liberated, and you will feel guilt free, and you will not feel the need to satisfy everyone around you or to please everyone around you. So, if you do this, then you will be free from guilt. And another thing you should be doing is to refuse to be a subject of manipulation. When people know about you, when people know about your life, or people know that you do not have enough self respect, or you don't feel worthy enough about yourself, then they keep using this as a basis to make you feel guilty and making you doing things which you do not want to do. So stop being so transparent to people, or so stop bowing down to people and accepting everything they say. During those times, you need to respect yourself more than others. You have to have a decent amount of respect for the feelings or the emotions of others, but not at the cost of your own feelings and emotions. Always put yourself first. And when someone is making you feel guilty, just think twice and put yourself first. And if you were in the other person's position, would you make yourself feel guilty like that? If you think you wouldn't make anyone feel guilty, that is your cue. That is your answer that you shouldn't be feeling guilty, and you shouldn't be bowing down to the demands of others. But there are usually people in our life who do want to make us feel guilty because they are used to make things work that way. It might be our parents, our siblings, or our spouse, or our friends who know us core up to the core bottom. They know us very well, and they know how to use our guilt to manipulate us into doing things. So how can you avoid getting into that kind of situations with people who are close to you or whom you're very familiar with? There's two ways you can stop being manipulated by them. One is by being silent. Whatever they say, just stay silent. After some time, they will just come out of it. And after some time, when they understand or realize that their tricks are not working on you, they will stop using guilt on you to make you do things. Another way of making people stop this kind of manipulation is to keep repeating to them. Whenever you recognize that they are using guilt on you, just ask them, are you using guilt to make me do this? and this will put a check to their intentions, and this will make them alert that even if they are doing it unintentionally, it will make them alert that, oh, maybe I'm using guilt to make other people do things. So they will stop getting into this behavior, and you are keeping a check on their manipulative behavior. And that is how you can stop people who are close to you from manipulating you into doing things which you actually do not want to do. Another way to be free from guilt is refuse to gossip, refuse to talk behind the back, refuse to indulge in any kind of criticism about others behind their back. When you keep doing this, when you keep talking about others, when you keep gossiping about others behind them, this is some kind of negative emotions you are feeding to your mind as well. This means that you do not have enough self worth, or you do not have enough self esteem to go and talk to the person directly. When you are talking rubbish about people behind their back, this is also having an influence, a negative influence on your mind. And you do not want to people to talk behind your back. So why would you do that? Talk about people the way you want them to talk about you. Do unto people the way you want them to do to you. So, if you start doing this, you will realize that you will develop a kind of transparency in your relationships. You will develop a kind of intimacy which is never there before in that relationship. Or you'll develop a kind of bond which is pure and honest. And from now on, all your relationships are going to be stronger, healthier, and you won't have any negative emotions piled up in you to gossip about somebody else. So, if you do not want somebody to gossip about you, stop gossiping about others, as this is having a negative influence on your mind, and it is depreciating your self worth and your self esteem too. So, stop gossiping about others and say only good things, respectful things, or say motivating things. If you don't like something about someone, try and convey it to them in a way that they will improve themselves in that particular thing. Do not be harsh, or do not use bad words, or do not use mean words to convey the things which you're not happy about others. This is how you can be free from guilt too. When you're not talking rubbish about others behind their back, you're not guilty, and it is not having a negative influence on your mind. And the final and the most important thing which can make you free from guilt is forgiving others. As easy as it might sound, it is not that easy. And there are a lot of people or a lot of situations which we can't forget from our childhood until now. And we keep on reliving the moment, or we keep on repeating that memories or thoughts in our mind, because we can't let go of it, because we didn't forgive the person, or we didn't forgive ourselves for us putting ourselves in that situation. But forgiveness can be a freeing experience. Forgiveness can make you free from all the feelings of guilt, of remorse, of resentment, and you can be completely a new person once you forgive yourself or the other person who was responsible for this kind of situation in your life. So, forgiveness is something which you have to do if you actually want to be free from guilt and stop being manipulated by others through guilt. And as much as we want to be free from guilt, it is not possible immediately, because we are trained to be doing things based on our guilt from childhood. But with some amount of dedication and practice, by doing all these things which we have discussed, we can be free from guilt, and we can recognize when others are trying to use guilt as a way of manipulating us. And this is how you can be free from guilt and not be a victim of manipulation in the future. So I hope this video gave you some points to make yourself better, one step at a time. And I'll see you in another interesting and helpful video. Get better with me, or get your life together with me, And please do subscribe to my channel and give your appreciation or your feedback in the comments, and I would love to know what you think about this video. So I'll see you in another interesting and helpful video. Until then, take care.